When we started the business back in '89, there was no internet at all. And so it was everybody pass out all these pieces of paper, and each juror had an ink pen, and they were writing. And we would come back with a stack of feedback, this long. And then there was several generations of hardware that went in after that. And now we're kind of all the experiences of all those prior systems are kind of coming to bear here.
When I first came to First Court 10 years ago, I remember, I don't know if you remember this, when we had the dials where you go back and forth, yes, I agree, no, I don't agree, and you kind of got some sense of what people thought of the presentation, but it was very primitive.
And it was primitive in the sense that they didn't know why, right? I mean, that was the big frustration, is you didn't really know why these 18 or 20 people were reacting the way they did. All you knew is that, well, they approved or they disapproved, but it could have been the color of the guy's hair, it could have been, anything, and we didn't really have an ability to dial in and get that understanding of the juror's mind like we do now.
And the ability to see their written notes, that is something that we put in. With those dials, you used to only get yes and no, and now you get a lot more color with detailed explanations of the way jurors feel, because just because a juror feels one way or the other doesn't mean that they're going to side with you. They may feel for you, they may agree with a lot of your points, but they may have another point that is far more important that you're not focused on. You're focused on some other peripheral. It helps the lawyers start to realize where their presentations need to go.
The software has this chat feature built into it. So instead of passing notes back and forth at the trial, and the jurors see all these notes going back and forth, which is pretty awkward, the software includes the ability for you to chat directly with the person on your team, the other lawyer, or the claim handler, or your client. And I've found that the clients who get to know the software, that can be extremely helpful because it gets their brains engaged. Right?
We have multiple choice questions that we ask our jurors, and as they answer those questions, they start tripping across some of the tripwires that we put down as far as being pro-plaintiff or pro-defense. So immediately within an hour of the case, you already start to know this
Right.
juror's leaning this way, and
I know the clients have been very startled, I think, when they see a witness say something during the trial, and then 2 minutes later there's a question quoting that exact witness, exactly what the witness said. And so it is kind of impressive as a jury consultant to be able to formulate these questions on the fly, and the clients say, wow, you're really listening, and you're smart. You understand what the ramifications of that answer to the case. And so I think it makes it a much more interactive kind of experience for the client. So there's a lot of information that the clients can access about each particular juror, how they answered every single of our background questions. The lawyers, who are looking at picking a jury, they think that's pretty helpful.
it really helps them prepare for trial because there are going to be those jurors in there, and so to know ahead of time that they have to overcome a certain bias, or they have to speak to a certain demographics point of view. To know that going into the presentation is very helpful.
And in terms of jury selection, one of the most helpful things for the lawyers in picking a jury is that the software will take all the pro-plaintiff jurors and put them in one pile, and then it takes all the pro-defense jurors and then put them in another pile, and then it can compare the background questions and the background answers of all the pro-defendants, and you can kind of see these patterns that emerge from the experiences that you begin to think, well, maybe a person who is older or female or whatever the background character is, maybe that's a good person for our trial, and maybe the converse is a bad person. So you do get some sense for, that ability to analyze in a very quick way the important background characteristics of the people as they come into the jury.
It gives somebody who's at a higher, as we call in the company, B52 level, the major, the carriers, the people who really don't have a lot of time to mess around, and lawyers are very busy people. They don't have a lot of time to mess around with trying to understand and decipher lots of data. And so we really bring that data up to the surface and make it so easy for them to understand where this trial is going and what direction the jurors are leaning.
Well, you can ask an essay question, and then you might leave a minute or a minute and a half for a juror to answer that. But you can also ask a multiple choice question, and that takes 15 seconds. So the ability to generate so many questions and so many answers, I think that's what some of these clients like General Motors and some of our big name clients have said, this is impressive. This is not anything that we have seen in any other jury research format, is the ability to generate so much objective data, and they go to school on that.